And if you're not participating in making the city beautiful, we ask you to stand down and let those who want to shine, let them shine to help make a little city by the bay that has a leeway to Napa and to Sonoma, Sacramento, over into Stockton, Oakland, you can be anywhere from Vallejo. With that being said, we have a brother, we have a man, we have a fellow citizen of Vallejo who wants to bring about a change. Change in what? We've been hearing politicians play a political game with the black vote. Now, we know all people vote, but this is Lower African minds. We're Pan-African, and we're not against anyone, but we are for the development of the African community. We at one time we had community before we had neighborhoods and blocks, and so we want to get back to a sense of community. So we have one of our own who's a blood at heart, but he's also a black man, an African, and our community is in shambles as far as what's the plan. Now we know one man cannot solve our plans. It's up to each and every individual to tell the city what they want. And we know the mayor's voice is to articulate that to the city council to say yes or no, it can happen, or let's re-strategize and put it back on the table. So with that being said, we want to introduce the one and only Hakeem Brown, New Makiwawa. How you doing tonight, sir?
New Makiwawa.
I'm doing great, brothers. It's an honor to be here on the show, and I must say to brother Taki, I don't mind being on the hot seat. I don't mind hard questions. In fact, I welcome them, and not only as an African, but as an Mbundu tribesman. The name of our kings was Angola, which hence the name of the country Angola, and it means iron. So, I'm always standing right there, standing strong on my own 2 feet, and I'm willing to answer any question at any time. So I definitely welcome it. I appreciate you all taking the time to have me on, so we can have a real conversation about politics, my views, and any questions you might have.
Most definitely. So I want to actually get right into it and ask, what was your motivation to want to run for mayor in the city of Vallejo?
I think my motivation was necessity. I think that my time on council, my time in life, I've learned that, organizations take on the character often of the leader. And I think that, that's true in any type of business, sports, politics. And for me, I don't like, if we're not headed in the right direction, I don't want to be sitting in the back seat or the passenger seat. I want to drive so that I can drive us in the right direction. I think that we need some real leadership. We need some people who understand business, as well as some people who hold values and share my values. So I don't take it as, to me, politics shouldn't be, I run into enough, quote unquote, people who want to be in politics or in politics who say, oh, well, you want to do that. No, it should come from a sense of serving. If there was already someone in place doing the job, I don't need to fill those shoes. I'm happy to play my position, whether it's as a council member, business owner, whatever it may be. But if we're not seeing the leadership we need, I have an obligation to step up.
Definitely. Thank you, brother. You mentioned values. What are your values as a brother in the community?
Well, I would definitely say my values have been shaped by probably 2 things. Obviously, my parents, who are, believe in Pan-Africanism, who were involved in the civil rights movement. My mom's from Leeds, Alabama, and grew up in segregation. My grandfather and my uncles had numerous run-ins with the Klan. And on my dad's side, he's from Washington, D.C., the home of, I think a lot of militant Black thought. And so I think that they definitely shaped me when it comes to what it means to be a Black man, the struggle that we're in here in this country that we've been in for hundreds of years. And I would say that matters to me. Growing up, I wasn't allowed to go out the house unless I had read up on my studies and learned about whether it was African-American leaders, African leaders, civil rights struggle. And that's something, you know, before I knew my ABCs, I could talk about Malcolm, Garvey, W.B. Du Bois. I mean, that's really my upbringing, you know, from my parents and my grandparents, I would say. Definitely a sense of self. But then I would also say this city has shaped me, and my values of never betray your friends, you know, do the right thing, man. When your word is your bond, when you shake someone's hand, mean it. And that's how I've survived here in Vallejo and even thrived. And those values have helped carry me to where I am today, a successful business owner. And, you know, I think that those are my values.
Most definitely. How long have you been in politics, brother?
Well, I mean, I would say as, you know, from a sense as an elected official, I was elected to be a delegate for the Democratic Party in 2017. It wasn't something that I looked forward to doing or something that I thought would be, I never was interested in getting involved in politics. You know, I figured that was for all of our brothers and sisters who went to the right colleges and went to the right schools and, you know, quote unquote, cream of the crop. And, you know, I didn't mind supporting those brothers and sisters, but I also thought that, you know, for me, that's not something that I really was in my purview. A friend of mine actually brought it to my attention, the importance of not just getting more involved, but why we need some real leadership up there. And, you know, I took it, like I said, not a extrovert, not someone who loves talking in front of people, but I'll do it if I have to. I'm going to do whatever I have to do if you can tell me that I can make a difference. And I think that once I saw my perspective change from supporting strong candidates and supporting my community to saying, you know what, I actually can win some elections and lead and be somebody who can really push values and actually make some substantial change in our community.
Definitely, definitely. Now, coming from an African mind perspective, would you say Vallejo has grown, or it's not grown as far as seeing it from the African perspective?
I would say that from an African perspective, we've always had a foot on our necks, but it's only put more pressure on in the last decades. You know, when we're talking about systemic racism, it's really, you know, a few real pillars of systemic racism, and it would be opportunity, education, housing. Those are things that, you know, when you look at systemic racism and from that standpoint, things have gotten a lot worse here. We haven't built housing, and we did not, until I got on council, we did not have any housing ordinance or rent control ordinance to ensure that Vallejoans could stay in housing. When you look at opportunity, there hasn't been any real jobs here. You know, there isn't any development here. That's the subtle forms of racism, as we talked before. When you look at zoning and redlining, you know, you could zone an area in a way that will never allow opportunity, or the odds will be against it. And we all know that odds matter. We know that because we've been to Vegas. So we know that if you could put those odds in your favor, that's a huge thing. And so then you look at, to me, last but definitely not least, our youth, education. We haven't invested anything in our youth. We don't have programs for our youth. We don't have facilities for our youth. We have done nothing to assist our youth in being successful. So I would say, as a Black man, you know, when you have, you know, forget what someone talking about, actions speak louder than words. And from where I'm sitting, it's only gotten tighter and tighter around our necks. And there's no mistaking it. There's no somehow thinking that this isn't intentional. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Most definitely. Well, how would you recommend we educate ourselves as voters?
Man, I think that's everything. Number one, you got to look at what the enemy tries to take away from you. You might want to look into pursuing, you know, and I think historically we as Africans have been denied the right to vote. People did not want us to educate ourselves about what's going on, how the system works. I think that was intentional. And I think that being said, we do have an obligation to educate ourselves about what's going on. Give me 1 second. What are the issues in the community? What, how the system works, which I think is very important. And what are the levers when it comes to this oppressive system? So I think we have to educate ourselves, and we can't take anyone else's word for it. We can't just trust the news. We can't, we have to take the time to learn, and we have to take the time to understand what we're dealing with, because the oppressor isn't going to tell us what's best for us, and quite frankly, if we're going to be honest, there's the only people in the history of mankind who had their freedom given to us was the Black man in America, period. This was not a freedom that we chose for ourselves. This isn't a freedom that we negotiated. This is a freedom that was given to us. So once again, when an oppressor gives you your freedom, then where do you really stand? So I think that we absolutely have to educate ourselves. We absolutely have to understand, have a comprehensive purview of the lay of the land. As the Art of War says, the terrain matters.
Right, right. And so given the time we have up to this election, what would you recommend people really focus on as far as educating themselves? What do you feel that should be the focus?
Well, I think that if I were a voter and I wasn't in this race, I would definitely assess what are my priorities, as well as if you're a conscious Black man or woman, you want to definitely look at the pillars of institutional racism and say, are these candidates, what are they doing to assess these pillars? What are they doing to attack them? What are they doing to make a difference? And I think that matters. I think, to me, police reform is important, but that's just one aspect. Police brutality is a symptom of an oppressive system. We also have to look at housing. We also have to look at education and youth. We also have to look at opportunity. I'm from Vallejo, the Bay Area. And so, we always got to keep our eyes on resources, the bag, who's controlling resources in our community, and how do we get a piece of the pie in our community? And so for me, that's what I would be looking at is not just one aspect, but everything. Because I don't think a council member can be a one-trick pony. I don't think a mayor can be a one-trick pony. I think that we had better be looking at a comprehensive. If the only thing I offered was I'm strong on housing, then okay, that's cool. Well, you're probably not in a position to be mayor, because a mayor has to be comprehensive. A mayor has to be able to take a look at how can you really change our community and our city. And I think that that's what I would be looking at if I were a voter, is, from every aspect, what are they doing to address issues? Not just one aspect, but all of them, and hold all of us accountable. Right. And I would add, last but not least, as a pragmatic man, I would say what someone has done in the past is a pretty good predictor of what they will do in the future. Don't talk to me about what you're going to do. I want to know what you have done. As the chair of the legislative chair of the African American Caucus for the California Democratic Party, our chairwoman, a great Black queen, Taisha Brown, has one motto, and it's something I firmly believe in. If you're a politician, don't talk to us about what you're going to do. Tell us, what have you done for the Black community, period. That's the only thing that you need to answer for us. What have you done for the Black community? And that's what we're going to hold you accountable for. And that's what I would do.
Definitely,
well,
definitely.
I have a couple of concerns, Mr. Brown, inside this dialogue. The history of Vallejo, we see that it has a hierarchy, starting with the mayorship, the city manager, and the city council. Then the funding goes to the police department, the fire department. In the interest of Vallejo politics, has been to the business owners, and then to the residential property tax contributors, which leaves a wider segment of the population interest out, and also there's a disenfranchised population that doesn't get involved in legislative decisions or civics, or they're not informed um, at the city council meetings, and then
Right.
sometimes they get emotional uh, after the vote because they didn't come out to vote, or they didn't know what the agendas are on the table. Uh, and sometimes the council meeting uh, is not the way it gets its information out there. Uh, Sometimes it's really quiet and settled. You really have to love your city council, or love being involved to know what's going on at City Hall and how to participate. And so my question to you, as a citizen of Vallejo, who happen to be from the African American community or from the African community, which is the disenfranchised community, if you're not a part of the secret society, the fraternity, or the sorority, or involved in the church system. Um, a lot of our people in the African American community is disenfranchised to the policies and the laws that's on the city books. And my question, as an elected mayor, would you have, do you have an ideal, or what could be done to allow this stagnated community to be more informed, to be involved in the process of how cities run, and why it's ran in the matter, so we can get more elected officials, we can have more people knowing where the tax money is going and how to get that annual return on, like you said, dealing with the zoning, dealing with
Right.
healthcare, dealing with infrastructure, dealing with education, dealing with the different things that it takes for a city to run, instead of stepping up, being all emotional after something happened. We need some preventative incentives to allow the community to move forward at this time in 2020. We should be way advanced by now. But you yourself, do you have an idea, a clue, or would you do you have a thought about how to get this particular community, the African community, more involved in its city government, so it can
So
make
I would say
informed
this,
decisions?
but what is your question is, what can we do so that they have a better understanding of the system, or
Yes,
voting?
yes, they pay into the system, and they don't have a clear understanding on
So,
how
so
city government
to,
works
to answer
and
your
why it
question,
works the way it works.
so to answer your question, I'm going to keep it 100 with Africans here, and I'm going to tell you, there is no shortcut to attaining power. There isn't. If we want someone to give us training wheels, we're in serious trouble, because our opposition ain't playing with training wheels. You have to take the time to educate oneself. Now, that being said, we also have to make sure that we're educating our kids and making sure that our kids have an understanding, because if we do that, then they will run towards the knowledge. To me, the Miseducation, a book I suggest for everyone, is The Miseducation of the Negro. You can literally educate someone to run into a wall, and they'll run into the wall themselves. We have to educate ourselves. The city posts when the meetings are, the information is out there, but if we don't take the time to learn it, especially with the internet, we have access to information that our great grandparents, who actually died so that we could vote, they didn't have access to the information that we had. They had to go down there to City Hall with the Klan sitting out there, knowing that they waiting on them, knowing that their kids are going to be in trouble, when we can access all of that on our phones. And if we choose not to, then what's wrong with us? And as far as an emotional decision, I must say, as a Black man, that, when we look at our ancestors, Zulu warriors, an emotional decision is not a decision of a warrior. We can't keep calling ourselves kings if we're going to be sitting here and lamenting the fact that we don't control our destiny. Take control of your destiny, period. The system is not going to hand it to you. Now, that being said, my job is, once you elect someone, then not only am I there to fight on those issues that matter to us, but I also need to make sure that I'm reaching back out to let the community know what's coming up. You know, we got something on housing, we got something on education. But I can just say it right now, every 2 weeks it's on. Show up every time. Every battle is important. We need to be at the table.
And that was very well said. And thank you for keeping it 100. Sometimes I tend to take the long way around in the discourse to have the clarity clear. And
yes,
with that being said, there's a big issue on the table in the youth mind and in the spirits and hearts of the citizens of Vallejo with the Black Lives Matter and the FAM and as well as other organizations. And they want to defund the police. Me, I would say let's diversify the budget. That's how I would word it, right? Every
saying the same thing.
Every civil society has to have a component that makes laws, that enforce laws, and that can interpret laws. And with that being said, the issue with defunding the police, what is your stance, right? And because a great concern of citizens who are at voting age right now. I mean, Vallejo have a very youthful population. A lot of elders are fading away. I hate to say that, but there's a young population in Vallejo that has the right to vote right now.
So, you want me to go ahead and speak on it?
Your stance
so I can speak on it.
Concern about defunding the police.
I think defunding the police is a logical. It's a logical conclusion, and I think that I am proud of them for coming to the conclusion, because, as you said, it makes one wonder, well, why aren't we investing money into the community, into education, into opportunity? Because, quite frankly, you wouldn't need police. If you look at my life, you know, I've been through it all, man. I have been homeless. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be out in these streets. But once I was able to achieve a certain level of success, then look at where I'm at now. And I think that could be for anyone. And so I think that that's a logical conclusion that society is coming to. And I would agree, we should be looking at ways that we can fund what will really make a difference. When you look at the Advanced you look at the Advanced Peace Project, which is a program out of Richmond that I brought to Vallejo and that we'll be implementing in Vallejo, is a program that was able to reduce Richmond's murders by over 70%. It didn't do it by policing. They did it by investing in these young Africans' lives. And it didn't mean just giving them a job. Before they saw a job, they got into looking into what was going on with their housing, what was going on with drug abuse, what was going on with their relationships, what was going on with their mental makeup, what was going on with their childhood. And lo and behold, these young men and women turned into leaders. And Richmond hasn't looked back. I brought that program into the city of Vallejo about 8 months ago. And I think that, you know, my actions show that I definitely see, you know, the one good thing about city council, you got receipts for everything. Everybody's on camera. And I'll never forget a meeting early on when we had a meeting with a consultant talking about funding. And what I said was, I want to see the city helping to support our youth, supporting opportunity, supporting creating housing. And I got laughed out the building. Council said, well, that's the work. Some councilmen said, well, that's the work of county. And what the consultant said was, you're both right. Normally a county handles that, but Councilmember Brown is right, because modern forward-thinking cities are starting to take on that role, as one should if your city has a soul, if your city understands systemic racism, if your city understands the education gap and what it has done to the Black community And, you know, to me, my dream, a good officer riding down a black ghetto, that's the dream of the oppressor. You know, to me, I want to see us uplift. I want to see us rise out of poverty where we're not in ghettos. We're not in any way associated with ghettos or poverty or even around that. You know, if we have the economic opportunity, then what police are doing doesn't matter. You know, and so that for me, I think that that's a natural, logical conclusion. And I'm glad that they are seeing that. And I think that my work would show that I believe that as well. That being said, we're not going to be able to change it overnight. I think keep the pressure up, because that helps me, because now I'm able to fund things that take away money from just law enforcement and instead put the money back into the community. You know, and I think that that's something that we should be working on in general. Like I said, I did that with the Advanced Peace Project. I was able to bring a program that would address low-level calls instead of police responding to mental health issues and who might be homeless. We will instead have medical professionals responding. And so I think that for me, I think that's a logical deduction, is how do we do that? And as you said, how do we diversify? But ultimately, you know, in a capitalist system, it does make you wonder, well, as a kid, I remember asking my mom, well, if everyone quit committing crimes, what would we need police for? And we had a conversation about it. But as I grew up, I actually realized that my concern is, in a capitalist system, even if everyone quit committing crimes, would they just change the laws to create more crime? Because once again, that we all know that a lot of the stuff is economics. So I think that, you know, I don't have a problem with that kind of mindset. I think it's a logical conclusion to what people are seeing.
Okay. And honestly, I'm going to let the people decide. Did you give them an answer, or did you have them travel in conversation? Because I have something important I want to bring to the table while we have you, Hakeem. And me, for one, you got my vote. I know the purse of the city went from a mayoral cabinet council to the city manager having a greater authority equal to the mayor in terms of economics.
No, we've been a city manager led government, I believe, since I mean, for as long as I've been alive.
Well, it started in the 80s. The mayors in the 60s and 70s, they had control of the purse, and they gave the purse up. Is that Intanilli or something like that? And they went to.
Now they did have more power. Mayor had a lot more power when it came to certain votes than they do now. I would definitely say that.
Right. I just don't want the people to be tricked, thinking that Osby Davis, Hakeem Brown, or whoever else become mayor, and all of a sudden we gonna be able to paint a new picture, because the city of Vallejo has business as usual, and it moves at a certain pace. I'm 53, and in my lifetime, the greatest thing we had was GVRD. When they interacted, they had the police activity lead, they had GVRD, and we had after-school programs, we had JAPA, we had CENA, and it was when the county and the city and the state was working in unison. But and plus, they had affirmative actions and quotas. We're in a different time now, and we're in a different style of government. Things are not going back to the way they used to be. And my concern, as a community activist for positive change, how will the new status that we find ourselves in California, United States of America, even Islam County, or City of Vallejo, as far as the COVID-19? How do we get maximum impact in the educational system with this new style of 6 feet distance?
Well, to answer your question, to a certain extent, brother, I would disagree in the sense that leadership does matter. And mayor have this form of strength or not, leadership matters. Horsepower matters. And what I mean by that is people who can get things done. Let's talk about facts right now, straight up. I'm not mayor yet, but in my time, first thing I did was for the first time in history, fought and won with one council member's support. Councilmember Pippin Dews, the only other council member who voted to make growing youth opportunities a tier 1 priority. First time in the history of Vallejo. Right here on my watch. Soon the first thing we got done. Secondly, rent control and getting a rent control ordinance. We got that done on my watch. History in the number 2. Let me, if I can finish. You correctly?
Huh? Wait. Am I hearing you correctly? Vallejo has rent control now.
Vallejo does have rent control.
Wow.
That happened on my watch. The state has rent control as well, but we instituted it before the state did, and that happened on my watch for the first time in the history of Vallejo.
Bravo, African. Bravo,
yeah.
Man. Bravo,
and now let's not forget, because I'm gonna keep talking about these 3 pillars. As Africans, we have to understand the 3 pillars of systemic racism. Opportunity. Right now, we have a development on Mare Island. If people were watching the city council meeting, the first time in the history of Vallejo, I brought up the fact that we need to have a community benefits package that benefits the community for this development to go forward, a minority business initiative to ensure that Black contractors have access and minority contractors have access to the pieces of the pie, as well as local hiring for our youth. That's important. First time in the history of Vallejo, strong mayor, no mayor, Councilmember Brown got that done. The Advanced Peace Project, which, like I said, was transformational in transforming Richmond, we brought that here as well. Most recently, I was able to get, people have talked about it, but talk is cheap. On my watch, we budgeted for a Office of Independent Monitor and a Citizens Oversight Commission. First time in the history of Vallejo, that's on my watch, right? Period. As well as a cahoots program, which will allow police officers to no longer respond to low-level calls. Somebody sleeping, somebody having mental health issues, somebody who's homeless. We're gonna have medical professionals responding to that. First time in the history of Vallejo. I was able to get the council to agree to become part of Obama's My Brother's Keeper. First time in the history of Vallejo. So I think that leadership matters, and there is a difference. We're all not the same. These are things that have happened on my watch. The world in tomorrow, I'm proud of the work that I've done up there. I feel that I fought the good fight. I feel that I'm working to change this community. And, so I personally think that leadership does matter. And strong city manager or not, I have an obligation to get things done. To get things done on council, that means, just if I would have got up there and just took these stands and been the lone vote, that's not getting things done. That's not being a leader. Getting things done is building consensus, figuring out common ground with other people so that we can move forward on issues that can make a difference. Before I got on council had a 4-3 split every vote. Yeah. You can almost count on the 3 or the 4, and they never split. Since I got on council, you don't know who I'm going to end up with, but I'm going to get the votes I need to address these issues, period. And so those are things that I'm proud of. Now, is there work to do? Absolutely. Am I just, I'm a humble person, and to say that I got a lot of work to do, and all of these decisions aren't easy. When these decisions are coming at you, quickly, and you got to make some hard decisions, and really, quite frankly, look at the long game. I think that being a council member and being a mayor, you know, I'm also privy to closed session. You know, I have more of a picture. I can paint a broader picture than the average person, or at least a lot of information that we have that comes out to the public, but slowly but surely. And so for me, I have to be able to think from a 30,000 foot level and make the decisions that are going to win. You know, I'm a chess player, and you know, those initial moves don't necessarily may not mean anything, but quite honestly, they can mean life or death, winning or losing. And so I think that leadership does matter.
Very well put. And sometimes I style questions to see what's at the heart of the individual. Because past the title that we have, you have to have a heart that's been given by the Creator to get the job done. And I commend you. You spoke from your heart. You spoke your truth. And, and so it came out, and people get to make their own decisions about from the information that you provided. I have a serious question. As you move into the mayor seat, a seat on the council becomes vacant. Is there a mechanism to fill that seat, or will that seat be filled by a vote, or is there somebody that's going to temporarily take your seat as you become the mayor?
From what I've seen and when I looked at the rules, the way I interpreted it was whoever was the next vote getter in my last election, that would have been former council member Jess Malgapo. Other than that, if he, for whatever reason, refused.
We have Special CQ. He still got some of those rolling.
My bad, John.
And so this system is renowned for us in the Bay Area and in the Sacramento.
No idea.
She also participated in the structuring of the Black Family Day, the first annual one in Vallejo. She's been injured.
Okay.
I like what I was hearing though. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Thank you for participating in that. It was an honor to have you out there with us, and we want to give a special thanks to Mitchell Buzz Game.
It was a beautiful day, beautiful movement, beautiful weekend. I appreciate you all's leadership, man. You know, my favorite thing in the world is seeing the community come together in a positive way. There's nothing like it, man. So I really appreciate you all and the work you've done to make that happen.
And we got some more projects coming up, and we would love to see you as the mayor, and we would like to get the whole city council involved. You know, even though we are Pan-African, the events that we do in the city of Vallejo is for everyone to enjoy.
Absolutely.
That's what makes us a strong, diverse community.
Right.
But now there is a sense that we do want some things for ourselves. I'm pretty sure we want to do a parade, and this is an opportunity. We want you to be the head of that parade once you do become mayor, but we'll talk about that in the back room. I
want to give a comment right quick from the audience. Rob Reason mentioned more than defund the police, hold the corrupt police department accountable, and fire the fatal 14.
So, and shout out to Brother Reasons, man. I appreciate his advocacy and leadership. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due to another African. I think that's a great point. Let me tell you, if I were in charge, people would be fired. You know, if I had control of who be hired or fired, we would clean house real quick, period. And so I would agree. I think that, you know, we have, from my standpoint, I can't fire people because that's not within my purview to literally fire. We can fire the city manager and we can fire the city attorney as long as I have 4 votes. But I can't just fire any one employee. I wish I could. I think that from there, we have to look at the system, whether from a state legislation or federal legislation, to make sure that we're holding officers who, you know, commit crimes, officers who commit police brutality, officers who do things that they're not supposed to do accountable immediately. But trust me, if I were in charge, there'd be no question that I would take immediate action. you know, to me. So it is frustrating. But when you look at the entire system from the DA's office, you know, we have to be able to attack this problem strategically and comprehensively. So I think that, hey, I hear you, brother. If it were up to me, we would have people would get fired for committing crimes, and there's no doubt about that.
And Rob, I would like to say we got our work to do. We need to figure out how civics work, how the city is ran and operated. What does it take to vote somebody in, vote somebody out? What powers do a mayor have? Power they don't. What do the city managers supposed to do, not do? What do the city attorney do and not do? And do they deserve, as we build momentum, to make transparency as citizens of the city of Vallejo? Do we want to keep business as usual, or do we want to lift our voice up and our vote up and also our pockets up and say we want to make a transformation in the city of Vallejo? Hakeem Brown is just one person. He says leadership do count, but there's other components. And with that being said, it's easy to take somebody out of a position, but you have to fill the position or you can get the same type of reverence. And so we have to be very mindful. We have a lot of young folks and we have a lot of middle-aged folks who have a lot of knowledge, who haven't had the chance to get into politics. And Hakeem took himself and he ran, he got elected, and we need other people to stand up. It's one thing to be emotional and make some noise and get their attention. Now that we have the attention, a great job. You jumped into fam, you got out there, you're very vocal. We support you. Across America, tackling in the police department is not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, can I say something?
But a city is bigger than a police department. There's different components, and we need to replace people. You know, get rid of those 14, which I agree with. But do we got 14 decent people to replace them with? Also, and that's what I want fam to think about. Because we salute you for what you're doing. Go ahead, Brother Hakeem.
And you bring up a good point. Once again, we have to be able to plan it all the way out and understand, because you just brought up a great point. You know, people say fire. Okay, well, what are we replacing with, and making sure that, you know, the plan is comprehensive. But, you know, one thing that for me, as someone who's been in the struggle my entire life, who has, you know, I've attended too many protests. I've attended too many funerals. You know, I've witnessed police brutality up front. You know, for me, I will never forget the day when Yolo County sheriffs put a gun to my 1-year-old son's head and tortured me on a dusty road. And, you know, seeing my family member killed by the police, you know, for me,
wow,
it's something that weighs on my mind on a regular basis. But I think that when I see the community speaking up, I commend them, you know. And for me, if to use an analogy of, you know, attaining true freedom is the capital, well, guess what? It's great that we can attack it from different fronts. It's great that we can all be aiming for the same thing, but have different methods to get there. And so I think for me, I commend anyone for wanting to make a difference and wanting to get the community to what is true freedom. And so if I see a brother attacking it from the west side and I'm attacking it from the east side, well, I hope I have somebody attacking it from the south side and the west side, and we're going to take this thing. You know what I mean? Like, really, straight up. You know what I mean? Like, really, you know, as Africans, I'm going to put up, you know, we you know, let's take some energy from the greatest general to ever live, Hannibal, straight out of Africa. And you're right, we're going to take this thing from the left flank, right flank, and overwhelm. That is how we win, not just, you know, from one side or the other. No, take the West in, because I'm taking this in, and let's meet at the top. Let's meet over the top is where I'm at with it. So I definitely commend any young brothers and all these brothers and sisters. And the only thing I would tell them is we're all in this together, because your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your ancestors, your parents, we all have been struggling to see us get to this quote unquote promised land as captured Africans. And so, I think that, we have to stick together. We have to have a comprehensive plan, and then we have to implement.
And I want to say this to the diversity. Salute to the Caucasians, white citizens of Vallejo that stood with fam, that stood with Black Lives Matter, that stood with the protest to help build momentum into the Filipino community, the Hispanic community, and the rest of the different diverse populations.
Right.
We don't want to tear our community up. That's never okay. We don't want to spray paint anything. That's never okay. To deface people's businesses. But what it is okay, if there's something on the books, find out what's on the books and vote it out the books. You can demand for different policies to come off and we can implement new. And we also want to have some independent investigations into how city fund is appropriated, how it's spent, maybe how the police use their budget or how the fire department use their budget or whatever it is. We as concerned citizens, there is a process, and that's the maturity of saying here's the people without power and authority ready to get into power and authority, as well as those who are talking about Black Lives Matter, right? And you march to help destroy Vallejo or to help defund the police, but what are you going to do with your vote? That's what I want to know. All the marching and protesting, what are you going to do with your vote? And as a taxpayer, as a tax-paying community, what is you asking the city of Vallejo to do with the revenues? Is it business as usual? And this is what I want to talk to people about. There's a certain group of people that own downtown Vallejo buildings that's just sitting there, right? From they went out of use in the 70s. Vallejo has a non-progressive downtown area. They tried to bring it alive with the hub and invite people from other areas in, gave them incentives and leasing contracts to come in and to live and to bring their arts and craft, even to bring the LGBT community. I mean, this stuff doesn't go unnoticed. Do we demand the city council to buy the buildings? Or do we have the city council talk to some of these property owners, and get them to lower the leasing and change the zoning where people can say, hey, I want to start my own business. See, one thing about corporate American capitalism, since Hakeem bring up, in a global economy, the corporations want to own the government. One thing about democracy is the individual have a right to create a school, to create a business. You have a right to be an entrepreneur, and that's what keeps the freedom free. And this is the type of questions we need to do, because if you become business owners, the police will have to respond to you. The fire department will have to respond to you. The council will have to respond to you. Money talks, bullshit walks. And we spend money on Nikes and phones and keeping our kids cute, on smoking gang of weed, drugs, whatever. And that's not a stereotype, but we can start community investing club, and we can ask the city to match us some funds or to give us incentives. And so as a collective, I just want to throw that out there, and marching and protest, being emotional. My cousin got killed by a cop, and they told him that they were going to kill him. All right, I'm not going to say no names at this point. So the point I'm making, you have officers who have a special club inside police departments, and they don't like certain people, and they plot on certain people. That they tell you that in the movies, right? But then you have some decent people who go home to their wives and kids, or who's just trying to make a living, and there is a code that they can't speak. But we as citizens, if we get involved in the city, those good cops, those good firemen, those good doctors, those good nurses, those good business people will also come out. That's when we have the Unified Vallejo Day, and we have Black Family Day, and we see how Hakeem Brown goes out in the crest with Orlando Graham, and they pass stuff out to the kids, and he goes over the Springs Road. And so
I got a question.
Let's get the good citizens of Vallejo to stand up.
So I got a question. You know, let's get real. Let's get really real, as we say out here in the V. Let's get really real. Start talking about changing the zoning and see how many of those same people hollering Black Lives Matter are going to keep standing with you. Pay attention.
That's what I'm talking about, brother.
Pay attention. I say, you know what? Now that we all can agree on police, now let's all agree on changing the zoning so that it'll allow development in the downtown area, and let's see how many of those same people are standing with you. Period. You know, let's get to the heart of the matter, because really, I've heard business owners be blamed, and business owners, landowners and building owners. If you change the zoning, we'd have development all over the place. Building owners are business owners. They want to be successful. There's no money in not making money. They love to be successful. So once we start talking about a comprehensive look at systemic racism and not just one part, and we start asking these other questions, see who's still standing there.
Good answer.
And I really appreciate you saying that as a business owner, and that's what the movements need to pay attention to. From an economic level, we can make a difference, and as we get involved in the business process. Also, we need to train young men and women from our community to become police officers, firemen, and city elected officials. If we're not happy with the job that they're doing, there's a thing going on in Vallejo. We're finding within our community, and I'm not switching to black on black crime. I'm just stating a fact that in order for our community to develop, we're going to have to patrol and speak to certain concerns that is keeping us in a negative mind frame of participating in different areas that we should be free to move around and not feel hostage in our own community or afraid to go outside. And we need to increase not just the peace, right? I know we say no justice, no peace, but we can have peace and still get justice. And the way we get justice through peace inside our own communities is having the turnout that fam has had, and not just demanding that those police get fired, which they should, but demanding that the zoning change so we can create those opportunities and stop begging the state, the federal government, the county, and the city. Yes, they have a part to play because we put tax money in there, but we got to get organized and get these zoning changes where we can open up after school programs, that we can open up recreational centers, that we can open up mentoring centers, that we can open up the restaurants that we want to eat at, and purchase the clothes that we like to purchase, and we can participate in a thriving economy. They're trying to do that in Oakland. COVID shut it down. Hey, I just wanted to throw out there that I agree 100% with Hakeem that we do need to change the zoning. And Rob, continue working on getting those officers to be held accountable for the lives that they took. There's a lot of parents that's hurting. There's a lot of families that's hurting. And it's something that cannot be swept under the rug in our moral conscience of loving family. But with that said, Hakeem, I just want to thank you for coming on and giving us the opportunity to be familiar with how you think, what's in your heart. You know, this is not going to be
there's a comment from the audience. They said, A+ Weave said, if we're all in this together, what part of together is the part where you accept endorsements from the same police who have murdered our loved ones? How do you sleep at night knowing that you accept money from the same people who have murdered our loved ones?
So
Well,
was they
I
saying
would
the
tell
police
them,
union? Are they
let
saying
me
the
answer that
correctional officers
question though.
union?
Let me answer that question though. First off, that was a lie put forward by racist white people. I ain't never took a dime from the police. I'm a dispensary owner. I'm a successful black man. I would not need to take money like a slave. So that's an insult. And I would ask anyone to produce any document to show they gave me a dime. They did. I had the support of every organization in Solano County. Just as much as someone wants to say that I had the endorsement of the police, if one does their homework, you'd also know I had the endorsement of SEIU and the work that they've done on civil rights. I had the endorsement of the NAACP. I had the endorsement of the African American Caucus. And so if you're going to look at one endorsement, look at them all. And quite frankly, I am not surprised at all that I had the police department support, fire department support, SEIU, labor, every organization, because I've shown myself to be a leader and someone who knows how to get the job done. And I think that from a labor standpoint, regardless, police, fire, public works, anyone who's part of a union, it don't take a genius to sit there and say, the city of Vallejo isn't doing enough to create revenue for this city. And so if I were in that position, I'd want to support people who know how to create revenue. So I would tell them, you know, I get tired of that slave mentality where you're repeating what you heard from a racist, period. I ain't took a dime from any police organization, any police officer. Last time I checked, I put my own money into the campaign, more money than any PAC raised in the last election, period. More. So how could I be bought, number one, if I raise more money out of my own pocket than any organization in the city of Vallejo, period. So that's my response to that. I think that, you know, it frustrates me when people repeat a lie, but you know what? I can't control people's mouths,
Hey,
period.
that's
If
part
it
of
were me,
politics.
before I repeated what the oppressor told me, I'd go check myself. So I would pay someone. I give you $5,000 if you can produce any document that said that I took a dime from the police. And I'm not surprised. Once again, A+ Weaves. I've been out there for multiple protests. Period. Multiple protests. On my watch, shootings have gone way down. On my watch, we've seen change. So that's my response to that, man. But you know, I can't sit there and argue a lie. And if you ignorant enough to not check your sources and not double check and you want to repeat it, well, then that's on you. But like I said, I ain't never took a dime from, let me finish. I ain't never took a dime from the police. And yeah, like I said, I had the endorsement of every organization in Solano County, period. And in this election, I have not been endorsed by the police officers. I haven't asked them to endorse me. And so, like I said, that you know, that's noise. That's not the truth. You know, I'm gonna stand on my truth.
Councilman, I want to thank you for being transparent, and I'm pretty sure that within these organizations, they have accountants. They can do an audit. They can find out who's who economically. And I thank you for staying in a strong position. But this is something else I want to know.
Yeah,
The people that's running
just,
for mayor, let me say this, the people that's running for mayor, I find that you've been under the most scrutiny. How did this get started and why?
well, I'm gonna answer your question. One of the reasons I got involved in politics was I supported Black candidates in 2016. And to hear, quote unquote, liberal, woke, Black Lives Matter, white folks saying every Black candidate was bought. Every Black candidate was bought. Every Black candidate would sell their soul. I took that offensively. I didn't just listen to what the oppressor had to say and start going after other Black people. I'm an African. I'm not a slave, period. So I did my own research, found it not to be true. But in every election, every Black candidate is quote unquote bought and sold. That's been the one consistent pattern in Vallejo politics. And if you a Negro enough to sit there and buy into that, that's on you. But like I said, a Black candidate is held to a different standard than a white candidate, period. And like I said, You know, we can have all the endorsements of every civil rights organization in the world, but because we got an endorsement from someone you don't like, that means I'm in there on my knees. I ain't never been on my damn knees, period. I'm a successful black man. I could walk away tomorrow and they never have to work another day in my damn life. And they can't nobody tell me that I take orders from the white man or I'll ever be a slave. I'd rather be dead before me or my family, before I'd ever disrespect myself or my family. And I'd ask people to walk in my shoes. You know, I know what it's like to where they torture me on the side of the road saying, give up your friends and we'll let you go. Give up your friends and you can keep your money. Give up your friends and you can keep your wealth. And I didn't give up a damn person, did my time, took my lumps, and walked out of there as a black man. And now you telling me I'm bought when these little organizations playing with pennies? That's some bullshit. And I don't mean to cuss on this show, but as a black man, I find that offensive because in every election, every black man and woman is somehow bought and sold. So when I walk up, so you telling me when I walk as a Mbundu tribesman, when I walk into a room with a white man, you telling me I walk out as a slave? Only a Negro would think that. Because me as an African black man, I can imagine a black man walking out as a man. And that's what I was saying. And the facts speak for themselves. I was endorsed, you know, the police officers are part of a PAC, a political action committee. And I got endorsed by that PAC too. They raised amongst themselves, I looked at the numbers, 20,000. I put 40K into my campaign. So if you're gonna say coon, put a TY in front of that thing and call it what it really is, because what I really am is a real leader who only stepped into this ring to make a difference. And so I get very frustrated at the fact that every black candidate is somehow bought and sold. And while our white candidates can do whatever they want, and ain't nobody accusing them of being sold, ain't nobody accusing them of being bought, ain't nobody scrutinizing that man. Man show up to one protest, now he getting hard and acting tough. Yeah, there is a different standard. And you know what? Half of it comes from us, because let's keep it 100. Harriet Tubman didn't carry a gun because of no white man. She carried it because of Negroes who will hold us back. Every black revolt that we've ever had, it wasn't a white man that stopped us, it was Negroes. So I don't like the fact that every black candidate has to somehow be under the scrutiny. But I can handle it. As Council Member Foster Hicks said, you know, I'm a horse. I'm built for this. It doesn't faze me. I know what I'm here for. And for me, I'm scoring touchdowns right here on the field, man, making history. But like I said, I do have to speak up for those who are going to come after me and those who come before us, because somehow we all bought. Miss me with that.
And that's very interesting that you said that. Lower African Minds, we are Pan-Africanists, and when we push for worldwide African unity, we respect every community and their diversity, but we don't let no one influence us on how to think, because we have our Nubian soul, we have our African minds, and we're thinking about our babies and our children's children. We notice in Vallejo that on Sonoma Boulevard and also on Broadway, that the Mexican, the Latino population has a corridor, and they put their money together, and they took their time to create businesses where they can go shop and express themselves. And they didn't ask the Africans, they didn't ask the Filipinos, they didn't ask the whites. They went ahead and they created a corridor, and now we have the flavor of Mexico. So did the Filipinos. And this is what Lord African Mind is trying to say to the Africans. We have to move and figure out things for ourselves. We don't want to repeat things that other people agenda might be saying, and moving us like chess pieces, because we look at the pyramid, and the pyramid is like pieces to a puzzle. The picture's already there, baby. All we got to do is fall in place. And so with that's been said, I would like to come to my last question for mayoral candidate Hakeem Brown. There has been numerous of people across my homelessness that wanted to build shelters in Vallejo. The only game in town is the Christian
Christian Health Center.
Christian Health Center, and they have encampments that get destroyed. Right now in the COVID-19, I guess they put some people up in hotels, and I thank you and commend you for the renters initiative that you put forward. Will you, as the mayor, address the issue that Vallejo needs more than 1 or 2 shelters? Because homelessness is not going to go away because it's not being addressed on a federal level or a state level or a county level. Each city is left to fix its own selves, and most city budget or city council members want to work with other projects, that they feel is more precedent. And I'll say this: they had studies on Rhode Island for the last 10 years, and they've been paying for those studies. They've been having studies for Slough County Fairgrounds. I think they spent over a couple of million on these studies for the last 20 years on developing the Slough County Fairgrounds at 400,000, 500,000, 600,000, and they keep doing these studies back to back, just like they do studies year after year. Should we get reparations? And all these fucking studies, excuse my language, doesn't do anything for the people who are hurting. And there's a population in Vallejo that's hurting. We know there's not enough housing for everybody, but as far as shelters are concerned, is that one of your issues? How does that look in your campaign?
So to answer your question, that was part of my campaign. I believe housing is a human right, so that was part of my platform in the last campaign. I'm proud of the fact that we are building a navigation center, which will allow those who are without housing to have a place to go so that they can get the resources they need, and hopefully get into a position where they are no longer without housing. We're also building it's called long-term sustainable housing at Eden Housing, which is actually going to be we're going to rebuild that whole Sacramento Street area with what is housing that has those resources, but instead of it being a navigation center, you actually can stay there and get those same services.
Beautiful.
I'm proud to say that I've worked with the housing director, Judy Shepherd Hall. We're going to be building workforce housing right there in North Vallejo. We will be giving discounts for teachers to use it as a teacher incentive to attract good teachers, and quite honestly, teachers of color to our community. So I think that's where I stand, and so that's what I believe in. I'm proud of the work that we've done in that regard. So yes, I believe housing is a human right. We have to build more housing, and once again, that needs to be an issue in the election, because see, the oppressor is going to try to blind us. It ain't just one issue in this election. If you're a one-issue person, good for you. Unfortunately, we don't live in a one-issue community, a one-issue society. We also have to address housing. We have to address the amount of sex trafficking of our young women right here in the city of Vallejo. We have to address the lack of education here, and so that housing is a pillar, and that's something that I'm going to continue to attack.
And so I really appreciate you taking this time out. And so I have a personal issue: infant mortality rate, and young mothers and young fathers who may not have a mother and father to teach them how to parent, who might don't have life skills, who might don't know what a trade is, who can't read or write, and the system is programmed to allow them to. We lost you, brother, did we?
No, I'm here.
Can you hear me? Defend for themselves, and they just keep. Sometimes we pass toxic information on that doesn't serve us any good in the long run.
Right.
Have you thought about that issue that these babies are having babies and they're not equipped?
I've been saying for the longest, man. With all this hoopla and all of the things going on in the community, nobody has ever addressed the fact that the high infant mortality rates when it comes to Black infants.
That's what we're doing here.
Astronomical levels. So I am a member of the Black Infant Health board. It's something that matters to me. I have taken the time to learn about what minority women, particularly Black women, go through with our child, while they're going through, their prenatal care and things like that. And so that is something that we have to address, because it's really from the womb to the tomb, literally we're being attacked before we're even born. And that, to me, I hear a lot of noise, but that gets drowned out. And that should be we should be just as up in arms about that. But you don't hear anyone talking about it because, because to talk about that, you actually would have to care. You'd actually have to, the people who standing there, once again, I'm going to ask that question. Everyone sitting there standing with us talking about the police. Can we talk about that and how that has been addressed, and what have you done to address that?
And so, I really appreciate that. And one thing I can say about the activists across the country, talking about the murders and talking about the police, and that's a step. That's called activism. But when you get past the emotional part, you do deal with health issues. You deal with child infertility. You deal with young adults having access to proper information to raise families. You deal with housing. And if we make noise around those areas, I'm not saying that might stop a road cop or somebody who might be a Klans or a Nazi or who joined the police department for their own agenda. But I know when there's a city that's trying to transform lives, and the citizens want to have their lives transformed, there's a better environment. There's more positive energy going around. So I would like to say to the citizens, yes, we want the 17 cops to be held accountable and responsible, but at the same time, we have to address other issues. Life is bigger than our brothers and sisters that had got unjust treatment from the different police departments. They're killing us as far as the birthing process. A lot of our sisters are going to these abortion clinics and they're not having any follow-up treatment to make sure that their bodies are healing. There's a lot of different issues that we're going to have to face to be mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, as well as physically healthy and economic healthy. And I would like for each and everyone who hear us or who participated in this live or who's going to share it or those who might come upon it, start thinking outside the box. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated, but let that energy turn into the 360 view. Use your third eye and your fourth eye, and let's see the whole picture. Don't let nobody come and tell us Black Lives Matter, and next thing you know, we on somebody else's agenda, and we all emotional, and then we the only ones going to jail. All right? We need to tackle all our issues. And that's what the county needs to hear, the county city. That's what the state needs to hear. That's what the federal government needs to hear. That's what the city council needs to hear, that we have more issues than just the police. We need to voice all our opinions, and we need to be the change that we need. Rob Reading, I salute you. Anybody else out there who is an activist or who think about becoming an activist or representative or advocate or volunteer, Hakeem, I would love to thank you for coming on this platform for the second time, giving us that good information. I see you spoke from your heart, and that's a beautiful thing. And Chief Taiki, the Grand Tech, I thank you for always having us on time, in time, all the time. Salute. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chief Taiki, the Grand High Tech. Could you tell the people how they can get in contact and how can they participate with Low African Mind, and give them that good information, brother?
Most definitely. But before I do that, I actually want to give props to Brother Hakeem. Definitely, you held your own in that hot seat, and I like how you operate under pressure. I did want to share this because you mentioned, brother, that you apologize for what, saying a cuss word or whatever, but this is Lower African Minds, and this may be the one place that you can vent. We see you here, definitely proof and evidence, and from other haters that are out there, brother, you must be doing something because you're receiving all of this. I mean, what do you call it? Hateration. And brother, if there's something you want to get off your chest, you could definitely do it here on this show and not have to apologize.
Thank you, brother.
Because we are
Thank you, brother.
unapologetically Black here. But that
Thank you, brother.
Definitely. That being said, as Ansubu mentioned, we do have our website, lowerafricanminds.com. That is where we connect. That's basically our real estate on the internet. And we encourage everybody to go there and register as a member because there is a lot of information and other things that we're not allowed to share on different public platforms. And there's other things amongst our people. Matter of fact, we're putting together a time to connect mentally together where we take certain times out of the day, kind of like our Muslim brothers and sisters. They got certain times that they pray and they're making that connection. We'll be announcing times where we'll take time out of our day just to connect with each other mentally and get in the right vibration with each other. We won't be announcing that on public. That will be members only because we want to keep that frequency pure as possible. So for those that aren't members, you're not going to get that information. You're not going to get that memo and various other things going on that we're discussing in the background. So definitely you want to go to lowerafricanminds.com, register as a member there. And like I said, that's our real estate on the internet.
And could I say a couple words before we get out of here, brother?
Most definitely. Go ahead, brother.
Oh,
I just want to first start off by saying, huh?
I said most definitely. We ain't done until you done, brother.
Yes, sir. I want to just tell you, brothers, I appreciate your leadership and your advocacy, and as well as just having an opportunity to be here on the show. Big fan of both of you, and I appreciate your commitment to making a difference and commitment to our community. I would just say, man, I appreciate the support. I appreciate everyone who stood with me and supported me. And, we'll continue to fight and work, but I am going to need your support in this election if we want to close those gaps that have to be closed when it comes to the police, when it comes to education, when it comes to housing, when it comes to opportunity. I need your support. I can't do this alone. Shout out to everyone out there trying to make a difference because we're all trying to get to that promised land. And so I think that we have to work together. I know that there's a lot of the community out there hurting, and I'm hurting too. That being said, we have to use that hurt in a way that's positive to really make a difference. And I think that on my watch, I don't want to see one young Black man or woman, young person in general, Black or brown, in any way lose their life. That's something that matters to me. And that's something that on my watch, I've held myself accountable as well as my other council members. But that being said, we still have a long way to go. We still have a lot of work to do, but the only way to really get it done is together. There is no way to not get it done because the work is big. It's not small. And I think that we have to attack it in that direction. And so I hope that you all will join me come November, because I'm going to tell you, I'm the only person who's running who you've seen in the Crest working, who you've seen in South Vallejo at these schools volunteering, where you've seen downtown volunteering and mentoring our kids, who brought resources to the community on a regular basis, who gives out scholarships to young Black men and women who are going into college every year, and it only gets bigger. So I just ask you all not to stand on my words, but my actions, and continue to hold me accountable. But there's work to do, but we can get there. But once again, I just want to thank everybody for supporting me. Thank you for standing with me. And, you know, to me, you know, brother Taki, I know you shared the graffiti, man. I'm not only am I an African, but I'm a Vallejo kid. That stuff doesn't faze me at all. We keep smashing. We actually take that, eat it up, and gonna give you something worse. We're gonna give you the business. And that's how I look at it. And like I said, you know, I told my son, I said, man, they just didn't know how to spell tycoon for real. Because period, point blank, on my watch, we've actually made real history. We've actually, I'm walking around here like George Jefferson, because I'm gonna tell you, man, on my watch, we got a civilian oversight commission. On my watch, we got a cahoots program. On my watch, we got rent control. On my watch, we got growing youth opportunities as a tier 1 priority, and we're investing in the community, and that's something that matters. So, you know, to me, I sleep well as an African, but I sleep well because I know that there's more work to do, and I'm dedicated to doing the work. And haters be damned. You guys will not stop us from getting to the promised land. And, you know, like Auntie Maxine say, if you're gonna shoot, you better shoot straight. You better make sure, because I am an African. I am not a Negro. I am not a slave. And I'm going to continue to fight for what's right as long as I'm breathing.
And so with that being said, I want to encourage the people who are black, or people who are protesting and marching. I would encourage you to take your temperament and your energy and for the 17th and turn it to the state attorney general, turn it to Slough County prosecutor, and also turn it to the Vallejo attorney. These are the people that need to hear your voice. There's other meritorious candidates that will sugarcoat and that will woo you. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, Taki's perfect, or you're perfect, or Hakeem's perfect, but I understand in our need for power and authority and to influence our children to know that they can overcome obstacles and that we can jump these hurdles, or we can be smart, walk around some of these goddamn hurdles. And so we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot while we running this race. Nipsey Hussle says the marathon continues. And so sometimes when somebody brings you some rah-rah and they put one person on the spot, sometimes we have to do a self-evaluation. Past the tears, past pain. I lost a lot of people, all right, from gang violence, turf violence, police shootings, and I have to put my best thinking cap forward without being emotional. I have to figure out what's the best next move. Even if Hakeem was my enemy or my best friend, I still have to figure out how I'm going to squeeze the lemon and make some lemonade. You dig what I'm saying? So let's get this brother in position, right? Because while he's not in position, the hooping and hollering, right, is just hooping and hollering. Once he get into position and we start writing things that we want on the book, and we make our own measures, our own initiatives, right, that we can have the rest of the voters vote upon, we're participating. His job as mayor is to sign it. The council job is to agree with it. They pass laws. So we need to know how a city is run. A mayor is a figurehead. The council is the legislative branch, right? And we need to understand, right? Besides being emotional, besides calling each other names, right? What's the best move to get our children and our children's children in position that they can participate in running a city, running a county, running a state, not just working a job, not just going to school. It's our turn to step up. And when we step up, we have to be fair to all people. Remember that part.
And I just want to say, just to ask everybody, remember the 3 pillars of systemic racism: opportunity, housing, and education. If we're not addressing those issues, we've accomplished nothing. Those are the issues that need to be addressed for us to see real equality. And, you know, for me, I'm going to definitely shout out my cousin, Aaron, a good African, a solid brother, the most intelligent brother out of our family, the most righteous brother, and died at the hands of police. And before he died, we'd already lost that brother, my first cousin, to a system that was designed to destroy him, period. And until we address that fact of what's happening to our best and our brightest, we're going to continue to be in this circle of frustration, lack of opportunity, and someone at our neck. So I just would ask us all to make sure that we're being comprehensive and thorough in how we look at the fight.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And I would like to invite anyone who has an opinion to come onto the platform and to let's discuss some things on Lord Have Command, Connecting Mind. Let's connect these dots. We all we got.
And that's it. That's it for our show, y'all. We appreciate everybody for coming in. Definitely been a good show. Definitely appreciate you, Brother Hakeem, for showing up again on our show. And we appreciate the insight that you gave us and the raw, uncut that you gave us. We definitely encourage everybody to tune in tomorrow. We have our Rhymes and Rhythm of the Metu Netter. That's at 8 p.m. tomorrow, Pacific Standard Time. I definitely want to check in for that. And then we have our Frequency Friday coming after that. So that being said, we appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you and good night. Numakiwawa.
Numakiwawa.